Chapter 7. Harry joined them in a large circle drawn in chalk. A large fire crackled in the center of the circle, surrounded by runes in the same white chalk. Each of them had a large candle already lit in front of them, along with a small thin blade, pieces of paper, a quill, and ink. He had the gist of what they were doing down. Marcus smiled at Harry from across the circle and lifted his hands, and slowly they went around in the circle till everyone was holding hands, forming an unbroken circle. Tonight we celebrate the longest night of the year, the shadow of winter and the death it brings. We bid goodbye to the moss and leaves, to the gentle winds and rain. We welcome the snow and biting chill, the thick blanket of calm that will cover all. Tonight, on this night of darkness, we send our tidings to Mother Magic. May she smile favorably upon us this coming year. We offer our wishes, dreams, magic, blood, and love. He broke off the hand-holding and lifted the knife, cutting the tip of his fingers to drip the blood into the candle in front of him. Take this, our blood, infused with the gift you have given us. Harry lifted his knife with the others and winced as he nicked himself to drop blood into his own candle. Marcus set his blade down and lifted the piece of parchment and quill. We write to you now our wishes and dreams, to burn upon the fire in hopes you hear. They each grabbed their own and wrote their secret wishes upon them before they all stood as one and tossed them into the main fire before taking each other's hands again. We give you now our magic, the very essence of what makes us your children. May it replenish the wild magic and future generations to come. Harry closed his eyes and reached for the magic inside him, feeling for it like he would with a wordless spell, enticing the bundle of threads to unwind and join the circle. Warmth spread along every nerve as it unwound quicker, pulling and tugging the very air, thirsty for the gift of magic. He concentrated on pulling it in, weaving the rampant threads of magic back into his core as he felt the others do the same. Marcus's voice raised above the crackling. Now we give you our love, wholesome and pure in its desire to be a child of magic. This part was more confusing for Harry, to think of all the ways he loved magic. It felt almost never-ending, how it gave him freedom, possibility, and hope. Love. It gave him love. He flushed brightly at the realization and tried not to break the others' concentration by making a noise. He loved Marcus. In such a short time, the other had become such a beacon in his life, a centering stone and calming presence. His thoughts drifted to all the things he loved about Marcus, his smile and kindness, the overprotective ways he defended him, how he was patient and trusted him, believed in him. He was taken from his thoughts as a gasp sounded, and Harry opened his eyes to see the large fire in the center had changed color, from a bright orange, red, and yellow to an almost icy blue and green. Marcus, is that normal? Harry wasn't sure who spoke, but he was wondering the same thing. Had he messed it up by thinking of Marcus instead of magic? I don't know. This has never happened when I do the ritual with my family. He cleared his throat and continued. Mother Magic, accept all we have given from the depths of our souls. May the new year bring joy and happiness and our everlasting bounty. The fire flickered and returned to its former color before dying out completely, leaving behind glowing logs and a large smear of ash against the stone floor. Harry felt weak in the knees and slowly lowered himself down onto the floor. That was intense. The others murmured their agreement as they took their seats as well. Cassius broke off from the group to go grab the tray of snacks and drinks they had Dobby leave here earlier. Harry drank down the water greedily. It was beautiful, I feel exhausted and energized at the same time. Marcus came to sit next to him, tugging Harry just enough to lean against him.
Indeed. Tonight seemed different, stronger. There was so much magic in the circle that I thought it was going to break for a moment. The changing colors may have to do with the amount of magic.
I felt like my magic was spilling out of me. I almost couldn't stop it. I had to reel it back in. It just kept leaving me, Harry stated as he grabbed one of the apple tarts and bit into it. It was your first time, and you have never manipulated raw magic before. Wait till the next one. You'll have it down by then, if you choose to join us. Adrian grinned at him from across the fire. Of course, if you guys still want to hang out with me by then. Marcus scowled.
You're not leaving. You belong with us now. We should just get you into Slytherin and be done with it.
I don't know if that's how it works, but I know the hat would agree. It wanted to place me in Slytherin, said I would do well in Slytherin, that I would go farther. But I had just met Malfoy, and I refused to be in the same house as him for 7 years. The others laughed, and Marcus kissed the top of his raven hair gently before his face became contemplative.
I'm not sure how I will handle it. I graduate this year. I will not be here to protect you.
Harry looked up at him. We can still write, and I will have your friends to help too. They won't let me get hurt, Marcus. Damn straight. Harry's our little lion after all. Though I guess he is more of a manticore, Terence remarked as he slid into Adrian's lap calmly. Manticore? I think you mean chimera. They're part lion, part snake, Harry shot back. Marcus snorted.
You would know magical creatures better. Speaking of, I think I should give you the Yule gift I got for you.
Marcus stood and helped Harry stand as well.
See you gents in the morning.
Harry waved goodbye as he followed Marcus out. You didn't have to get me anything. You've already given me enough. He frowned before his face evened out.
You deserve everything I give you. More, even. As for your gift, you got me this lovely tie pin. I do believe we were thinking much the same with our gifts.
The Gryffindor followed him into the Slytherin dorm, down the staircase and past the dorms he was currently camping out in, until they reached the deepest one for 7th years. Dorm was built much like the others, except each bed also seemed to have its own cubby for the desk pressed into them. You have your own desks?
It's so we can have privacy when we study. 7th years is a bit of a nightmare. The desks have silencing charms and privacy wards.
He tugged Harry over to one of the beds and patted it.
Here, sit. I have to get it.
Harry sat on the bed and flushed. Marcus's bed. He ran a hand along the blanket as he waited. He wasn't sure how long it was before the soft sound of hissing alerted him to Marcus's return. He held out his hands and took the box. It had small holes along it, and he could hear something moving inside of the box. What? He opened the box carefully and yelped when a snake shot out of the shadow in it. He wrapping around his neck tightly, the angry hissing evident the creature was about to attempt to run away. Wait, please. I'm sorry I startled you. The snake stopped its flight path and whirled back. Hey, speaker, here. You would keep me caged in such a disgusting thing. Harry shook his head and held out his hand. The snake coiled in on itself, scales rubbing together to make an almost shushing noise. I am a good meeting gift. I am strong with good venom. Harry laughed lightly. Yes, you are very handsome. Does that mean you want to stay? protect you and future nestlings. He flushed and watched the snake slide smoothly from the bed to his arm, winding itself along the appendage as it worked its way up to drape along his neck. The snake was pitch black with a white underbelly. It looked to have a hood and odd bone protrusions, but without it flared, it was hard to tell. Thank you, Marcus. He is beautiful. I won't get in trouble for having him. Marcus sat next to him, shifting in place for a few moments. His face was flushed as he answered.
You're a parsimouth. Other animal speakers have had companions before. There was a Hufflepuff a few years ago, graduated now. She could speak to birds. She had an assortment here at Hogwarts.
Harry ran gentle fingers along the scales, enjoying the cool touch. Where did you get him? The Slytherin leaned back against his headboard.
He is a horned serpent. We breed them at home. So I sent word to my father for a yearling. He was curious as to why, but in the end didn't question it.
Does he know? Marcus winced.
He knows I'm courting someone, but not who.
He sat up and took Harry's hand.
I'm not hiding you, nor am I ashamed of courting you. I just want him to meet you in person. I honestly think he will love you.
Harry felt his cheeks heat. Thank you, Marcus.
Anything for you. Come up. Let's talk before I escort you back to your dorm.
The Gryffindor slid further up the bed, careful not to jostle the snake as he laid next to Marcus. It was so easy to talk to him. Hours could pass, and Harry wouldn't care or notice. He just wasn't sure how to tell the other that he was in love. Chapter 8. The day of the second task dawned, and Harry was as nervous as could be. The others were around him, preparing to walk with him to the lake where the second task would take place. He knew they would be supporting him, and that was amazing in his mind. He was glad to have someone other than a single professor in his corner. He made sure the swim shorts he wore didn't slide off his hips. They were made out of strange material that Marcus still hadn't told him. Something about keeping him warmer while he was in the freezing lake. Speaking of Marcus, he hadn't seen the other yet this morning, and it was starting to make him worry. Are you sure Marcus wasn't in his room? Adrian shook his head. No, we couldn't find him. I don't understand, this isn't like him. He would be here. Terence nodded from the bed next to him. It is odd. He could have gotten pulled away by the Professor Snape, though. Captain business. Wouldn't be the first time. He's probably going to meet us there. Harry grabbed the robe that all the champions had been provided with and began filing out with them. Most of the morning had been spent just trying to get his nerves in check. He made sure he had his wand harness and wand settled and all his important things tucked away in his trunk. The 2 gillyweed balls in his shorts pocket. He was ready. He could do this. Oh, here. Cassius stepped up and held out a small wrapped gift. Welcome to Slytherin, Harry. He took it and opened the fabric to show another harness. This one looked like it went on his calf, but instead of a wand, it was a short, sharp blade. Oh, wow. Cassius grinned. I asked Marcus if he had gotten you your first blade yet. He said no. So I took it upon myself. The handle is ivory and the blade is dragon bone. It can be used in combat and ceremonies. Harry smiled at him. Thanks, Cass. How do I put it on? The older stepped forward and knelt, taking Harry's leg carefully, and he fitted the straps of the harness snugly against his calf. Like this. Every practitioner of the old ways should have his own knife. The more you use it, the more connected to you it becomes. No one else can wield your blade. He stood and pulled Harry into a hug. I've come to think of you as my little brother, so be careful out there today. I promise. Harry flushed as the others hugged him or ruffled his hair before they began making the trek to the lake for the task. He could already see the crowds of people hovering about the lake in the temporary stands. Large globes hovered in the air to display what was happening beneath the surface. The judges were already situated in their podium. Harry nodded to the other contestants and took his position. Crouch Sr. made his way to a hovering platform above the lake and slid his wand to his throat. Welcome everyone to the second task of the Tri-Wizard Tournament. Champions, deep in this lake you will find what we have taken from you and bring it back to the surface before the 1 hour mark. You may use any means to your disposal except to harm your other champions. At the cannon fire, get ready, set. The cannon fired and Harry swallowed the wiggling ball of green rat tails before jumping into the water without the robe. The crushing cold slammed into him and sunk into his very bones. Whoever thought diving in a lake in February was a good idea was clearly an idiot. He felt the twisting, changing sensation, and his body warmed as the gillyweed took effect, and he breathed in his first gulp of rich oxygen from the water around him. He looked around him, trying to orient himself from the surface to the bottom. It was most likely towards the bottom of the lake, whatever it was that they took. Harry swam deeper, passing by a few fish. Then a swarm of small creatures was upon him. He pulled to the sides as he felt small claws and teeth rake across his skin. He cast a quick wordless blasting spell and watched several keel over and start floating to the surface. The rest scattered. He broke away to quickly begin swimming deeper and deeper. He could feel the cuts bleeding into the water around him and hoped it didn't attract more attention. Swimming deeper and deeper until he could see pillars and shapes of building at the bottom. The merpeople. They were in the very center of the city, was a pedestal with 4 pillars. A person tied to each one, floating. Harry drifted to them and saw all 4 were still there. How was he the first person here? He saw a young blonde, Hermione, Cho Chang, Marcus. He swam towards Marcus and touched his cheek. The sharp cold of the other's skin had him panicking. He pulled the blade at his calf and began to cut at the ropes holding Marcus down. A dark shape made him look up to the side to see a horrid cross between a human and a shark. It grabbed at Hermione's bindings and snapping at her clothes carefully before dragging her up towards the surface. He cut at the robes and pulled Marcus to his chest before watching Cedric come closer with a bubblehead charm. No sign of the other contestant, Fleur. He hesitated and looked at Cedric and pointed at the little girl, and Cedric shook his head and made a signal. Fleur wasn't coming. Shit. He couldn't leave the girl here. What if the spell they were under broke and she died? He glanced at Marcus and kissed his cheek. Marcus would understand. He reached for the girl and began to swipe at her rope bindings. A sharp pain and he whirled. A merfolk jabbed at him with a spear again. He cast a quick bombarda, flinging the merfolk back into a wall, spidering the side. Blood coated the water, and then they came at him from all sides, and above. Harry flung spells to get them off and away from him, and is now 2 people. He felt the bite of the stone against his skin before grabbing at Marcus and the little girl and began swimming towards the surface. He had to get to the surface before the gillyweed ended. He could feel the bone-chilling cold seeping back into his bones. He could see the shafts of light in the water, his lungs burning as the gills disappeared and the webbing along his feet retreated to normal flesh. His vision was spotted as he swam faster, the heavy waterlogged clothes of his 2 people dragging him back down, but he fought it with every muscle. Finally breaking the surface, he gasped for breath and heard the 2 in his arms gasping for as well. The little girl screamed and began sobbing, talking in broken French as he tried to get away. Harry clung tighter to her. Calm down, calm, please. I have you, I won't let you drown. Marcus groaned and leaned against Harry, coughing and grabbing deep breaths before talking. Calmez-vous, s'il vous plaît, Elad. Calm, please. He is helping. The little girl finally settled in his arms, and he began swimming to the dock. Marcus helping now that he was awake and coherent. They were helped up onto the dock, and Harry set the little girl next to him. Gabrielle! Fleur ran over, dragging the little girl into her arms. tears rolling down her cheeks as they were speaking quick French to help calm each other. Fleur looked at Harry and grabbed his arm. "You saved my sister. Merci, merci." She kissed his cheeks and pulled him into the hug pile. Harry tensed for a moment, not sure how to handle it, before relaxing as the little girl hugged and kissed his cheeks as well. He looked next to him to see Marcus watching with a blank expression. "I'm glad you're both safe. I'm sorry she was taken as your prize. It's wrong to involve children in this." "I must say I agree with Harry Potter," a calm, deep voice stated. The Gryffindor turned and saw a tall man with white blonde hair and a thick braid draping over his shoulder. He was dressed in a soft gray suit with a blue, tight button-up shirt. The silver eyes looked almost stormy and glowing. Harry looked at Marcus and was pulled closer to the other. "Harry, he is the member of the French court, much like our ministry." "Why is he here?" Harry asked back softly. The man glanced at Harry and smiled kindly. "I am here, young one, because one of my people was in danger, and Mistress Maxine informed me that one of her young charges was missing, taken without her knowledge." Harry's eyes widened and he glanced at Fleur and her sister, as he was not sure what to say. Marcus tugged him away. "Let him deal with it. We need to get you healed up. You're covered in cuts." He nodded towards the man before helping Harry stand, wrapping a blanket around his shoulders. The younger let himself lean against the larger as they were walked to the medical tent. The others were still getting their injuries tended to. Cho and Hermione curled up on pallets under mounds of blankets. Pomfrey came over and waved her wand over at them calmly. "No major wounds, Mr. Potter. A small mercy, it would seem. You and Marcus appear to be in much better condition than the others. Go ahead to your dorms and rest up." Marcus gritted his teeth. "He has open wounds." The nurse turned. "And I have 2 children with hypothermia and another stuck in a human transfiguration. You both are well enough. Please wait for your score and then head back to your dorm and get warm." Harry just tugged Marcus. "Don't worry about it. Let's just get to the dorm. I don't even care about my score." Marcus didn't look pleased, but he nodded and pulled Harry close, and the two began making their way back, spotting their group of friends on the way and waving them over. Adrian was bright-eyed. "Harry, you were amazing! Taking on Grindylows and then merfolk? Ouch, you still look banged up." "Madame Pomfrey has other patients to worry about. I'm fine. Just a few scrapes and bruises," Harry responded softly. Terence scoffed. "I will be the judge of that. You're lucky I'm training to be a healer." He led the way not to the dorms, but to his prefect room, and let them all in. "Sit by the fire, I'll be right back." Harry flopped on the couch next to the fire, his trunks already dry thanks to a handy spell. The blanket and fire both warmed him. He listened to the others talking about him, but his focus was lost to his thoughts. Why couldn't he have an adult that gave a shit about him like the man had to the Delacours? Did their government just not care? Or was he special in their disdain? "Harry, can you remove the blanket so I can look?" He jostled from his thoughts and smiled at Terence before pulling off the blanket, wincing lightly as the salve was smeared onto the small scratches and bites. Soon the numbing kicked in and he relaxed further. Terence was mostly quiet as he worked. "You have quite a few scars." He shrugged. "Scars are just another part of life. I think my favorite is this one." He poked the small, puckered scar just below his elbow. "Basilisk fang. And before you get worried, phoenix tears." The older one nodded and looked at the scar. "Basilisk venom doesn't just go away with phoenix tears. They negate each other, but the substance would still be there. It is not something you can just make disappear. Would you mind if I did a full scan of you one of these days?" Sure, I don't mind." He rubbed at the scar and hissed when the bruising salve was rubbed into the bruises along his shoulders and side. The merfolk hadn't cut or skewered him, but their spears left marks. He felt the hand drift from a bruise to one of the scars along his back. "Harry, what are these from?" Harry shrugged. I'd rather not talk about it. Terrence didn't respond, and he looked down at the floor. He could feel the others looking at him, watching and listening, even if they seemed to be talking amongst themselves. He wanted the floor to swallow him up, but part of him knew. If he told them, they would understand, right? Chapter 9. Harry groaned softly as he finally stirred from his sleep. His head felt foggy and his tongue thick. He swore his limbs were made of lead as he tried to stir and move. His face rubbed into the warm hardness that was pressed against his cheek. The pillow was so nice, he didn't want to get up. Till his pillow moved. He tensed as something flopped over him, and he carefully sat up and looked around. The bed was large. It appeared to have been expanded, and there was not one, but 6 people. Some were bare-chested, others fully clothed, and all snoring and draped haphazardly across each other. Adrian was basically on top of Terrence, drooling into the other's chest. Cassius was on the end of the bed, his leg coming up to drape over Harry's legs, with Graham draped across Cass's chest. The pillow under Harry rose and fell steadily, and he flushed dark as he noticed he had been draped over Marcus, whose chest was bare and lightly furred with dark curls. There was a tattoo peeking from the band of his pants along his hip, the ink swirling in complicated runic designs. Slowly, the previous night came flooding back, the party that had happened from him completing the second task. True to Graham's word, he had managed to get his father to send a bottle of elderberry wine. The thick wine had been sweet and tangy, with the right amount of burn that had Harry drinking far more of it than he had planned. At one point, he had danced with Marcus, their hips grinding together until they tumbled to the couch laughing. He now had a vivid image of Adrian and Terror making out in a way Harry had not known to be possible. How they had breathed, he still didn't know. At one point, they had all just fallen into the bed and crashed. Now, though, he felt like his eyelids were being held by glue and his bladder was screaming. He crawled carefully over Marcus and went to the bathroom situated off to the side and went about relieving himself and then scrubbing at his face until he felt somewhat human. He heard groaning and looked out to see Marcus was awake, crawling out of the bed and towards the bathroom as well. Harry laughed softly and whispered, "You all right?" The other nodded and grumbled.
I forgot how strong they made their wine. Excuse me.
He slipped into the bathroom next, and Harry just shook his head and went to the couch to flop down and relax for a few moments. It would be a bit before the others dragged themselves out of the bed. Marcus flopped onto the couch next to him, and Harry tucked himself up against the other side. "I was worried when I couldn't find you yesterday." A soft kiss to his temple.
I couldn't tell you or warn you. They came to me at like 4 in the morning, and it was said I was chosen as the person you had to find. I was assured I would feel nothing and just be asleep. I trusted you to come get me. I knew you could. You did well saving that little girl, too.
Harry nodded. "I knew I had to get you to the surface, but she was just floating there. You both were so cold, but she looked so much worse. Her lips were blue and I couldn't leave her. I know I got back last, but..."
No, you did the right thing, Harry. The girl and Miss Delacour are part Vila. They don't do well in water or freezing temperatures. They are creatures of fire. She would have actually died down there if you hadn't saved her.
Oh, I didn't know. Are they going to be all right?
I don't know.
Marcus turned to Harry and pulled him closer, kissing along his neck and shoulder.
You are so strong, my chimera.
Harry laughed at the sentiment. "My snake." Then leaned into the kiss as they sought each other out, tongues dancing in a heated jumble. A warm hand slid from shoulder down the graceful line of Harry's spine to carefully cup and pull him into the large lap, legs falling to either side to straddle. Marcus looked up into bright green eyes and smiled softly.
You are a treasure worth worshipping.
cupping the smooth jaw to pull him down for another deep kiss.
Oh my God, my eyes.
The two broke apart, cheeks red, as Graham crawled out of the bed and towards the bathroom next.
Save it for your own privacy, guys. I don't like watching Teo and Adrian, and I certainly don't want to watch you two. No offense, of course.
None taken. In that case, we shall be going. Give the others our goodbye.
Marcus stated and stood, keeping Harry in his arms, despite the yelp of surprise.
I'm taking my corded to my dorm.
Harry laughed a little and decided to go with it, wrapping his arms around Marcus's neck and leaning into the hold. It was a little awkward to be carried down the dungeon halls, but it was early enough that no one was around to really see, even as they snuck into the 7th year dorms and collapsed onto the smaller bed, curling into each other's arms.
Marcus, I want to tell you about my scars,
Harry whispered. Dark gray eyes closed before a few spells were made and the curtains closed around them, sealing them in their own private sanctuary.
All right.
He took a deep breath before beginning his tale. Unable to look up from where he was pressed against Marcus's chest, he told him everything. From the cupboard under the stairs to the bullying and abuse he got from his relatives. How he had never had a friend and everyone thought him a freak. Once he started, he couldn't stop. The words just fell from him like a tide of emotion. At one point, he felt himself beginning to cry, and nothing but the reassuring touches kept him going in his tale. Finally, he just fell silent and hid his face against the other's warm chest. Marcus said nothing at first, just taking the moment to hold him and run firm fingers along his back and scalp.
Harry, what they did to you is unforgivable. I need you to know that I am not a good person, and I can't let them get away with this. They will pay for what they've done to you. Do you understand?
Harry felt like his heart was going to beat out of his chest.
You're going to hurt them?
I'm going to kill them,
he snarled darkly, before tugging Harry's chin enough to look him in the eye.
I'm going to hunt them down and kill them, and when it's done, I'm going to take you home with me. You will never spend another summer in that fucking place.
But Dumbledore said I had to be there to protect me from Voldemort.
Fuck Dumbledore. Harry, he isn't helping you. He's done nothing to truly help you. I'm not saying you have to follow the Dark Lord, but I think you should at least go neutral. Step out of the war completely. The Dark Lord won't have a reason to come after you if you don't stand in his way. Let the adults fight this battle.
Harry fidgeted and looked down again.
You really think he won't chase me if I step out?
Why would he? Unless there is something neither of us knows, I won't be able to join you as a neutral fighter. There are already whispers that he is coming back. I don't know if it is true, but my father already has his mark, and I am my father's son. There are some things I truly believe in with his cause. I will not lie to you. I will do things that may sicken you, but know that I will never harm you or allow anyone else to either. Harry, over these past few months, I've come to see one thing.
Green eyes met gray, and Marcus took a deep breath, cupping the soft, pale cheeks.
I love you, Harry Potter. I love you with all my heart.
Harry smiled, tears threatening to spill again.
I love you too, Marcus.
Their lips met and their hearts sang as they let themselves just sink into the love they held for the other. Harry wasn't sure if he could stomach knowing what Marcus would do in the war, but he trusted the other so deeply that there was no doubt in his mind. He would follow the other to death and back. He couldn't take a life or torture anyone. He didn't even want to fight, but he would fight for Marcus. He would live for Marcus. This was his life, and he accepted it.